Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole friend, and his sole mourner. There is no doubt whatever that Marley was dead. Now this must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful of this story that I am about to relate can occur. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret, self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. The clerk, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let two other people in. They were portly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, and now stood with their hats off in Scrooge's office. They had books and papers in their hands, and they bowed to him. "Scrooge and Marley's, I believe," said one of the gentlemen, referring to his list. "Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?"
"Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. In fact, he died 7 years ago this very night."
"Well, at this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at this present time."
"Are there no prisons?"
"Well, plenty of prisons, yes."
"And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?"
"Well, they are still. I wish I could say they were not."
"The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor, then?"
"Both very busy, sir."
"Oh, I was afraid from what you had said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful occurrence. I'm very glad to hear it."
"Well, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. What shall I put you down for?"
"Nothing."
You wish to remain anonymous?"
"I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there."
"But many can't go there, and many would rather die."
"If they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population." Good afternoon, gentlemen. The Cratchits were not well dressed. Their clothes were scanty. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. And when they faded and looked happier yet in the bright sprinklings of the Spirit's torch at parting, Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. "Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live."
"I see a vacant seat in the chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered in the future, the child will die."
No, kind Spirit. No, say he will be spared."
"What of it? If he be like to die, he had better do it, and decrease the surplus population." Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the Spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief. "Man, will you decide what men shall live and what men shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child." Scrooge bent before the ghost's rebuke, and trembling cast his eyes upon the ground. The bell struck 12, Scrooge looked around him for the ghost and saw it not. At the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came near him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the very air through which this spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment, which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. Scrooge felt that it was tall and stately when it came beside him, and its mysterious presence filled him with a solemn dread. He knew no more, for the spirit neither spoke nor moved.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The spirit answered not, but pointed onward with its hand.
I will honor Christmas. I will keep it in my heart all the year. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone.
In his agony, he caught the spectral hand. It sought to free itself, but he was strong in his entreaty and detained it. The spirit, stronger yet, repulsed him. Holding up his hands in a final prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It collapsed and shrank and dwindled down into a bedpost. A bedpost. His, and a bed. It was his, and it was his room. Oh, his own, best and happiest of all. Time before him was his own, to make amends in.
Hello. What do you mean by coming in here at this time of day?
Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time.
You are? Yes. Yes, I think you are. Step this way, sir, if you please.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making a bit merry yesterday, sir.
Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary.
Oh. Cratchit backed away. He was reaching for a ruler. He had an idea of knocking Scrooge down with it and calling for help and a straitjacket.
Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, my good fellow, than I've given you in many a year. I'll raise your salary and attempt to assist your struggling family. And we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop. Now, make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he became a second father. It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive knew the secret. May that be said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.